Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Urban Come Up. I'm your host, Janora McDuffie. So, I'm excited about being the host of this show because it's all about the hero's journey. And all of our heroes on this show are folks of color, so that makes me especially excited and proud. And a lot of times when we talk about our journeys, they start from humble beginnings. Well, there are also journeys and examples of people of color who actually have entrepreneurial lineage. And our guest today is one of them. His name is Curtis May, and his granddad actually was a business owner in Philly. So we're going to talk to him not just about his journey and the images that surrounded him that gave him the mindset to do what he's doing now. He's a financial educator, so he's also going to drop some knowledge about how to invest and create wealth. He's got this formula all about mindset, skill set, and building that network, because yes, we all know it's about who you know. So stick around and we will talk with Curtis May when we get back.
The Urban Come Up podcast is sponsored by LA Digital Recording, where you can have your podcast professionally edited and distributed to your fan base. Visit ladigitalrecording.com/podcast editing.
Hey everybody, this is Janora McDuffie, the host of the Urban Come Up. Today is a treat. We've got Curtis May. He is a financial educator who built a financial advising company that offers a wide pool of knowledge for clients who have the desire not just to invest or organize their money, but to enjoy it now. That's what I'm talking about. I can't wait for this conversation. Welcome, Curtis.
Hey, Janora, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. Well, let's just jump in. You call yourself a financial educator. What exactly is that?
Well, I say that because what I really do is I try to teach people how money works. And so it's my belief that what you know today, what you learn today will dictate where you'll be at, 5, 10 years from now. And I want people to be in control of their money and stop relinquishing it to other people.
Oh, I can't wait to dig deeper in that. But before we get there, how did you become a financial educator? Were your parents entrepreneurs? Is finance something you've always been interested in?
I've always been interested in money. I can't remember when I could not count because my parents were entrepreneurs. And my grandfather was an entrepreneur and, in the 50s had, 15. I was talking to my cousin, 15 people working for him. My father had always had a business, and I never got that go to school, get your education, get a good job talk. My dad told me never make any money work for somebody else. So he, was successful. He had a supermarket. Went from little corner stores to a supermarket, and, I used to work at the market from the time I was 7, 8, wrapping food and stamping stuff, putting on the shelf. My sister and I were cashiering at 13, 14, so
Wow.
I've always been around, and this is before the machines counted the money for you and told you how much change to give back. Okay, so, I had to be able to talk to adults and count money at the same time, and so that's, that was kind of a blessing. So, I just kind of grew up in it. And, I thought even when I went to college, I thought you majored in business to go into business.
Wow. So it's really interesting. It sounds like you came from generational entrepreneurs. And as brown folks, that's always fascinating and inspiring to hear stories of. Talk a little bit more about your granddad and his business and what your parents did.
Yeah, my grandfather, I'm still trying to get the whole story, so I don't even know if I can put out there how he got from Georgia to Philly. That's kind of, he had to leave in the middle of the night to say that for beating up somebody.
Okay.
So anyway, got up here in the 30s and 40s, and my dad was voted most outstanding teenager in Philadelphia. It was 57, and he'd had at 15, 16 a dry cleaning business where he would pick your stuff up and deliver it. So he always had little hustles. He went to the Air Force. And so he pretty much had his own business, and since he was 19 or 20, and then that just kind of passed on to me. Whereas I even got into the field I'm in college, because I was always looking for, little hustles, so to speak, that I could do to make money. And somebody showed me what I was doing, told me a check for $400, and said, "This is what I made for hours worth of work." I said, "Doing what?" I said, "Man, that's all you do?" And I knew, in my mind, basketball player, ego. I was like, if this knucklehead can do it, I can do it. I got my insurance license in 1985 and my investment license a couple years after that, which I've subsequently released about 20 years ago. But basically, that was the beginning of my business. I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. So it's truly in your blood.
Yes. I mean, it wasn't all bright lights and glamour. I mean, it was, because I wasn't any good. All right. So let's not mistake that. I was because by nature, I'm introverted. So I wasn't unconfident, but I'm still introverted. So everything about marketing and sales came difficult to me because everything about the business was uncomfortable and scared me to death. But you just got to work through that stuff. And my goals were bigger than my fear. And so that kind of, pulled me through that.
Because I was going to ask, what was it that had to shake it? Because that's definitely a huge part of what you do to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a big why. You have to, I'm a big believer in personal development because that's really got me to where I am. And, somebody said one time, if you want to hide something from, can I say this? You want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book.
Oh, yeah.
And, all right.
I've
so
heard that.
I decided that wouldn't be me. So, I mean, I probably read 1 to 4 books a month, and I have done so probably for the last 25 years, just on. Now, I was a ball player, but admittedly, I was a nerd. So I like, reading and learning new stuff, and that just, helped me get better at what I do. And I always tell people, it's like basketball. You have to work on your game, and you just got to focus on getting better. Because what I liked about my field was that if I was good, you could be better than the next person. So I wanted to get into a field where if I was better, I could get compensated more than everybody else.
And just out of curiosity, out of those 25 years, 4 books a year, give me something in your top 3.
On my show, everybody had, that starts because that kind of shifted from what I was being taught to, okay, this is how rich people do it. This is a whole different thing. Mm-hmm. Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash, which was a different way to look at finance that really changed my career and how I did business and what I teach. And let me see, early on, it was like classic stuff. Like in college, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I just learned that you have to, I heard from a Tony Robbins course, your ability to communicate will dictate your income.
Okay.
And so I worked at, being able to, I have a mentor tells me now, it's not what you know, it's what you can communicate. So I always try to get better at how can I say it better, how can I say it simpler, because it's not how smart I am, it's what people are receiving for what I'm talking about.
Okay. That's definitely a good point and definitely all true. And you also threw in your story something about basketball. Tell me about sports in your life.
Well, sports is major. I mean, that was my focus. So I would say I thought you majored in business to go into business, but I really wanted to play basketball. And so I ended up, my father played, so I probably picked up a ball. My earliest memories was about 4 or 5. And, again, being the nerd, I would read. So I'll tell the kids, who heard of George Gervin, and said, nobody. And I'm looking, I said, well, he was Kevin Durant before Kevin Durant. And, but I read he shot 600 shots a day. And so I started, I would emulate people with how they worked out, what they did. And I became a decent shooter. It was through work and competing. So I ended up being all city in Philly and playing, at a little school in Massachusetts, and then transferred to another school in North Carolina, which was a mistake, but that's another story. And but what I got from sports was, one, I realized the NBA wasn't looking for 5'11" shooting guards, so I had to do something else.
Okay.
But what I really took away was you have to have the will to prepare to win. Everybody wants to win, but there's work that goes before that. And most people, even when I coach kids now, it's like, listen, you have to do the work. And when I coach them now, I say, most of y'all are not going to play pro, whatever. You may make it to college, but what I want you to be able to do is be able to understand the work that's involved. And if you'll learn how to do that and learn how to compete and not compare, and learn how to discipline yourself to do the work, to work out when nobody's there telling you what to do. That is what separates the good from the great.
There it is. And then a lot of that sounds like the foundation of your work as a financial educator.
It is. It's 'cause that's how I work, and then that's how I teach, our clients how to, if they're my clients that are business owners, how they have to work on their business, what aspects of their quote-unquote game they need to work on, and then what you have to do to work on yourself. And I don't know if we want to get into in this segment, but whereas I tell people your number one asset is you. Okay,
yes.
Not in some thing outside of you or some magic product or investment. It's in you. And once I realized that is what really, I'd always done it, but probably in the last 3 years I've really crystallized on a strategy with that, and that's really what's kind of taken our business to the next level.
Well, before we get into what you're doing now, let's still rewind the clock a little bit, talking about balling in college and it didn't quite go as you had planned. Was that the time when you decided the financial services are for me, going back to your earlier roots in the supermarket count and change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we had it was a lot that went on. We had a fire while I was still in college, and so so it kind of went some stuff with the insurance, but basically it didn't work out, and so I didn't really want to be in the supermarket business, so it was kind of freeing, but I knew that, all right, well, worst case, I had this vision. I remember I had this dream of having our store was called Maze Market, like a map with dots of all the Maze Markets across the country, and me flying to visit them in my jet.
Okay.
So I had this vision at 14, 15. We're going to do this. We're going to do this big, And but when that happened, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was ambitious. So I was introverted yet ambitious. And when people shared opportunities with me, I wasn't afraid of money. Like some people are afraid of success, I would look at stuff, sales things and Amways and that kind of stuff, and I would talk to other people about doing that. Like for example, network marketing. I like network marketing. Most people don't know how to do it right, so that's why I don't make any money, but it's a legitimate thing. But you'll talk to people, and my dad used to say, listen, most people can only see about twice what they make a year. So if you talk to people about that make $30,000 a year about making 100, mentally they can't see that. They can see maybe twice that. And I didn't really have those constraints. I knew my dad made okay money, and I always tell people growing up, like, I'm going to date myself, but remember good times.
Oh, yes.
With the people, growing up in the projects. Well, I didn't relate to that at all. Honestly, the Cosby Show was a more realistic representation of where I was. I saw black people that looked like that in my neighborhood. My next door neighbor owned a gas station. They were just all small business owners, But all the good basketball games were not in there. I had to go to the hood.
Yes, images definitely do matter. So we are going to talk about that a little bit more and how it has inspired you to do exactly what you're doing now. So hold on tight, and you guys listening, stick around.
The Urban Come Up podcast is sponsored by LA Digital Recording, where you can have your podcast professionally edited and distributed to your fan base. Visit ladigitalrecording.com/podcast editing. You're listening to the Urban Come Up podcast. Each week on the Urban Come Up podcast, you'll hear how our guests were challenged and turned their challenges into success. And now, here's your host, Janora McDuffie.
All right, welcome back to the Urban Come Up. We've been talking with financial educator Curtis May. We've been having a great time so far, so glad you guys stuck around or are joining us. Curtis has been telling us amazing stories all about his time growing up in Philly, but now let's bring it back to 2019, or bring it up to 2019 as life as a financial educator, and we're going to pick his brain on that a little bit. So, Curtis, tell us, if there are 3 things we need to understand, what are they on how to create wealth and also enjoy the benefits?
All right, so we're going to help you come up.
Yes, we are coming to you, Curtis.
So this is, and it's simple, and so this is where I'm kind of like the the traditional advisor because I don't think it has to do with Wall Street or any stock or any type of, magic product. That's the mistake that people fall into because they're looking for someone else to solve their problem. So the three things that I've learned that's helped me that I'm teaching our clients is, number one, understand that your number one asset is you. Okay? It's not something else. It's not some mutual fund. It is you. And so there's three things. So when I talked about that, there's 3 points within that. Your number one asset is you, and you have to invest, number one, in your mindset. Okay? Which is how you think. Most people, as Jim Rose used to say, don't have a money problem. They have a philosophy problem. And so what you have to do is, so specifically, here are things that you can do to invest your mindset. Can you read 10 to 15 pages a day of good books to work on your mindset, to work on what you think about, to work on being not so much positive, but you've got to, when opportunities come across you, if you're not looking, if your head is not right, you're going to miss it. Okay? The second thing you've got to invest in that I focus on, and I mean, when I say focus, this is on my calendar. This is, I break the year out into quarters, and these are things I need to know, go, events I need to be at. So this is a plan. This is not, it's not random. The second thing is your skill set. So your income is in direct proportion to the value that you bring to the marketplace. And so you have to, how can you make yourself more valuable to the marketplace? Yes, you can. And so you've got to work on skills. What can you do that other people can't do? And so the better you are at that, the more revenue you can command for your time. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, Curtis.
Okay, and so that's it. So now you generate more revenue. And then step 3 is once you have that skill set, then you've got to network. So you've got to put yourself in environments. Sometimes you have to pay to be in those environments where now you've got the mindset, you've got the confidence, you've got the skill set, and now you're around people that could benefit from your skill sets, and now you can charge them, and that's what generates money. So if you want to grow your cash flow, you got to generate more revenue, and then you got to learn to save 10 to 20% of it. So if you just do that, that will put you halfway to the winner's circle, 2/3 of the way to the winner's circle, just in those 3 points.
Okay. And I see that you are from the School of Prosperity Economics. So it sounds like it's not just about making money, but finding that balance to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, so prosperity economics, so it's 2 parts of that. So prosperity economics just means that what I teach is kind of what people used to do before Wall Street took over people's psyche. People don't understand that the 401k has only been around since 1979. Financial planning as a profession has been around since 1969. So what did people do before that? I'll give you a little book hint. There's a little book called The Richest Man in Babylon. So all Curtis does is teach those philosophies. But part of that is you want to live the best life you can today. I mean, otherwise, what are you working for? You're not working to have a deferred life, to put off using your money for 40 years and then hope to live happily ever after. I mean, if I just did the math for you, the math don't even work on that, And but you want to, you gotta, I tell people, look, if you can save 20% of your income, I don't care what you do with the rest of it. Okay. And so I want you to go on vacation. You ain't got to stop going to Starbucks. Don't be crazy now. I didn't say go to, I had a client that was going to Olive Garden 3 days a week and she couldn't save any money. I said, okay, we need to adjust your lifestyle a little bit. But if you're saving and then focusing on from your savings, buying more assets that generate more cash flow, prosperity economics is also more cash flow focused and buying assets that send you a check than it is hoping for capital gains, because you can't eat equity, you live on cash flow. So that's kind of what prosperity economics is about and what we teach on our show.
Okay, that's a great lead into talking about your show, the Practical Wealth Podcast. Is that correct, Curtis?
Yes, the Practical Wealth Show, but yep, that's it. And the show is, I'm trying to bring information to people that I don't think if I show it to them, they ain't never going to see it. And, the theme of my show kind of is stop looking for other people to solve your problems.
Right.
And understand if you're your number one asset, then you're supposed to solve your problems. And I kind of get it from my dad's favorite song was that James Brown song, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. I open up the door, I get it myself.
Okay.
And so that is kind of that. So where it's either me going on my rants. I probably do that like once a month. It comes out weekly, and then I try to just interview brilliant people on when I talk about investing, I teach people there's 4 asset classes. Okay, most people think of what I call paper, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and done right, it's a great thing. But when you look at wealthy people, what do? They build businesses, which is my favorite asset class because I'm my father's son, and they buy real estate. And the focus is on cash flow. But the 4 are business, real estate, paper, and commodities. Commodities, gold, gas, gold, silver, agricultural things, paper, tax liens, private lending, distressed mortgage buying. I mean, it's a big mouthful. It's a lot of stuff going on there. And what I try to do is show people, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Mm-hmm. You don't have to take an enormous amount of risk. In my mind, risk means probability of loss. Okay, so I'm the safe money guy. I don't believe in having people go out there speculating. And so on the show, we talk about that. And I'm just endlessly curious. And I just kind of let the show go, where it goes. And I just ask questions that I think, our listeners want to know. And we kind of, people get to know me. And I just try to get out stuff so they have useful information that they can apply or go get a book on or just follow up, because we're really about teaching people and empowering people to think, not telling you what to think.
I love all of that, Curtis. So tell our listeners where they can tune in to your podcast.
Yeah, so they can find me. So first of all, the name of the show is The Practical Wealth Show. So wherever you listen to podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever. We're all over, YouTube. And so you can find us there. Our website, if you'd like to kind of see what the Practical Wealth Money for Life process is all about, you can go to practicalwealthadvisors.com and, watch our video. And if you want to learn about prosperity economics, you can text cashflow #ebook to 26786, and we'll give you a book called Financial Planning Has Failed.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Curtis. You guys, we have been educated financially. And then also, again, follow up with Curtis if you want to learn a little bit more. So this is another edition of the Urban Come Up. Thank you again for your time, Curtis. And we'll see you guys next time.
The Urban Come Up podcast is sponsored by LA Digital Recording, where you can have your podcast professionally edited and distributed to your fan base. Visit ladigitalrecording.com/podcast editing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Urban Come Up. I hope you all learned something as we spent some time with Curtis May today. Remember, you are your most important asset. I think that's what I took away the most. And of course, his top 3 things that we always need to invest in: our mindset, what are we reading, what are we doing with our time, our skill set, what makes us valuable, and of course, our network. People we hang around are always influencing our thoughts and our pathway to success. So let's keep it on the up and up. Thank you again for joining us, and I'll see you next week.